After he went crashing through the stud wall, he ended up on his back, looking up at his mate, and his mate to look down at him and said, well, that didn't go quite as planned, did it?
It depends. Was he doing an extension or was he trying to?
No, I don't think he intended making another entrance anyway. So
The entrance he made was in hospital. There you go. Let's not forget, it's Denmark and England a little bit later. So
yeah,
from here, I'll be rushing to a little bar pub thing to have lunch and watch the game.
okay.
That's not why we're here. That's not why we're here.
Mm.
But it's why I'm dressed.
Yes.
Okay, so it looks like recently there's more space now to be had in our capital city of London in the UK.
Mm.
Car parking space is going to be easier to find.
Mm.
That'll be nice.
Yeah.
Right. You'll be able to walk on the pavement instead of having to walk on the road because the pavements will be less full of people, full of shopping bags. That always hates me. I hate that.
Oxford Street. Yeah, I remember. Yes.
Yeah. And that's because around 9,500 millionaires have taken our advice and taken up and left the UK just this last year. Why? Why all of a sudden this exodus of millionaires? Well, it's for fear of what's going to happen when the Labour Party, who are set to win the next elections, when they get in power, what are they going to do? Who are they going to tax and by how much? And I think Starmer said that it's the rich that's going to hold the brunt of the tax burden. So basically, they're just taking the money, they're taking themselves and the money out of the UK and going somewhere else. Now you imagine that millionaires, they can go pretty much anywhere, I suppose. I'll come back on to how they can do that in a second.
Yeah.
But the UK is the second country in the world with the highest exodus of millionaires. They're only surpassed by China. But when you've got 1.5 billion Chinese people, you're going to have an awful lot more millionaires that are going to want to jump ship, if you know what I mean. The favorite destinations of the people leaving the UK seem to be Paris, Dubai, Amsterdam, Monaco, Geneva. I used to live there. Geneva, Sydney, Sydney, Singapore. And if these millionaires are near to retiring, the destinations seem to be Florida, with all those condos for the kids. The Algarve. Now the Algarve was popular when I was a kid in the 60s and 70s.
Oh yeah.
All expats used to go down to the Algarve and retire there. Malta, which is sort of, it's hidden off the beaten track, but Malta has a very special relationship with the UK.
Yeah.
And so British people can get across there quite easily. And with their tax laws, it's quite beneficial. And of course, the Italian Riviera, as we all see in these old films from the 60s and 70s. All the rich people seem to be down there on the yachts in the Italian Riviera. Now, Brazil, that's not to be left out, of course. Brazil lost some millionaires leaving Brazil since Lula was re-elected. But in Europe, only the UK and Russia have had net negative movement of millionaires. More people have left than come into the country.
Right. Okay.
Right. In Russia, mainly because of the sanctions.
Yeah. Okay. That's.
So those Russians who've got dual nationality, for example, they just
Right.
take all the rubles, change them into another currency, change the nationality, and there you are.
Yes.
We can see the same sort of movements in the US, where the uber rich are fleeing blue states, democratic
Yeah.
states,
Yeah.
like California and New
Mm.
York,
Yeah.
and fleeing to Florida and Texas.
Yeah.
Now, I say this about the millionaires,
Mm.
you don't have to be a millionaire to move to get more bang for your buck.
Mm.
We moved here to Brazil, you and I.
Mm. Yeah.
We've got the warm weather. We've got
Mm.
the beach,
Yeah.
stone's throw. We have the countryside a bit further.
Yeah.
The price is a lot lower,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah.
and the way of life, uh, is a lot different here than what it is in the UK.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so people I would say to people who are thinking about retiring, or even youngsters,
Mm.
adventurers, give
Yeah.
Brazil a try. Because I know that I mean I'm sure that pensioners don't want to feel the cold. They
Yeah.
used to in the UK. They used to ship them out to Benidorm and places like that
Mm.
in the south of Spain because it was cheaper to
Mm.
keep them at the warm temperature than what it was to heat the old people's homes. I remember
Yeah.
that went through a phase of that in the UK.
Mm.
Well, for sure here they're not going to feel the cold. And I mean now it's only like 29 degrees because it's a
Yeah.
cold day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. I
Well,
mean,
but
yes.
anyway, if I was an adventurer, what I would advise the youngster to
Mm.
do is to travel,
Mm.
use your tourist visa to test out the place
Mm.
that you're thinking of staying in, because
Yeah.
it's good for 3 months, and
Mm.
you can prolong it for another 3 months. So
Yeah.
you've got 6 months of legally staying in a place,
Mm.
and I'm sure that by then you'd know if you want to really stay there or not. And if you really want to stay there, then you start making the moves to become a permanent resident. But
Mm.
at least it's almost like but always have a return ticket
Yeah.
so you
Well
can go
done.
back to Blighty, because if it all goes belly up, then you can always get
Yeah.
back home.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't.
And so there have it. I'd say the same thing to the millionaires. The millionaires, I'm
Mm.
sure that when they move to these places, they don't want to permanently live there. They're
No.
just there to shelter themselves from the UK, and that they should go there as a tourist and extend
Yeah.
the tourist. They can actually become citizens,
Mm.
millionaires, by paying a fee.
Mm. Yeah.
If you've got a lot of money, you can buy your citizenship in a lot of countries,
Yeah.
so that you don't have to pay tax in the UK. But there you have it. I think that I mean, me coming in here, I was just following pins on, you know.
Mm.
And it seems that some of the millionaires might be following me. That
Yeah.
paranoid me, you can bet.
Yeah. Well,
But
yes.
over to you. Millionaires are fleeing the UK because they're
Yeah.
worried about Starmer.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
leaving Brazil because of Lula, and they're leaving Russia because of the sanctions. Over to you.
well, okay. Well, listen to Steve. He's an influencer now. I figure showing that his subjects are popular. Yeah, it is a Yeah, it's interesting when you talk about the UK because I saw other reports talking about that. There's a lot of properties in London that basically laying dormant. Now, again, okay, this is for third-hand information. But literally empty, multi or million dollar, £1 million, whatever, apartments that are owned. Nobody's quite sure who they owned, not on first glance, because they're all on offshore accounts. Well, you're telling me that people are leaving. Yes, they might be leaving for a majority of reasons. Again, I don't know what the turnover was necessarily before the threat of Labour and Starmer coming in was. Okay, I don't know. I've read the manifesto. To me, it's gone really, really pre-Blair retro socialist.
Yeah.
Really has.
Yeah.
But let's be honest about it. The Tory one isn't much better in some ways. Basically, they've got to raise capital. Where the hell are they going to get it from? Yeah, we know people that like the idea of turning the rich upside down until their last dime falls out their pocket. That doesn't solve anything for anyone. Because these people do invest, they have the factories, they have the industries, the shops, and everything else. We need them. But they're people who have creative ideas a lot of the time and are able to do things. I also know, and yeah, I've been a private person there are ways around, I won't say not paying tax, of tax avoidance, not tax evasion, tax avoidance, and there are ways of doing it. And declaring that you're no longer living in a country is one of them. It might be that these people were living overseas anyway. They kept keeping the UK as a flag of convenience. It might not be they've actually left. Again, I don't know. I'm talking off the top of my head, just from background information I might know. It might be now they are declaring they're getting out to actually make people think before they do vote as well. Because it will be inconvenient for many if Labour do get in. Okay. So to me, it might just be, yeah, they're declaring they're not actually living there now and they're gone somewhere else, which might be that they're not going to spend any less time in the UK than they did before. Well, remember, these people operate in the way they do. They're not properly elitist. We talk about the politicians being elitist. They don't belong to that club. These people are something quite different. They do invest a lot of money in different countries as well. You don't put all your eggs in one basket, is the old expression. Yeah. So it might be they've got business interest. I mean, I've worked for multinational companies, and I've worked for French companies, Canadian multinational companies. I'm not saying who. German multinational companies. Actually, any multinational company except for British, it would appear. But they had very, very strong British interests. But at the moment, but that doesn't mean there's a mass exodus. I don't really care, to be quite honest, about millionaires leaving as such. I care more about companies leaving. Now, I read a report the other day that says more companies overall since Brexit are now moving, for fear of Europe, moving to the UK. It might be that they don't fear, multinational company might not have the fear of any particular government as much as an individual person would. Because don't forget, multinational companies already have it set up to be able to do something else anyway. Set operations from somewhere else and just have an office in a country. I often wonder about these reports, and I read a lot. I mean, if we actually believe it, Brexit, the UK should be less than on its knees right now. It should be down crawling in the dirt, and it still isn't. However negative you look at it, Steve. Yeah. Post Brexit, the UK isn't where a lot of people predicted it will be. Europe is probably overall in a worse state.
Well, the thing about Brexit is that it needed post Brexit it needed entrepreneurs to have a wider vision. Yeah, because everybody was just focused on Europe and that's it. They can't, if you've got somebody who's just dealt with Europe for 40 years of their lives, then when all of a sudden they can't have that, they need to open the vision and see that there is another a huge world out there.
Yeah.
Apart from Europe, and they just couldn't get to grips with that.
But I know from slightly insider people spoke to that there was a move to do that, and actually Brazil was on the list. Brazil slipped down the list a bit now because of obviously different things have changed in Brazil since then. And I mean, Brazil's never been an easy country really to do business with overall.
No.
The French, the Italians, and the Spanish seem to manage it in a way the British can't, and probably the US do as well. But don't forget, we're in the region as well. But it's a I'm often very cynical, suspicious about these reports. Look, I've read quite a few in the past 2 weeks that are quite conflict each other. So what do you believe? I'm going to be quite honest. As a person, I'm not particularly happy about prospective new administration coming into the UK. I'm not particularly enamoured by the previous, or the current one, for a lot of reasons. I mean, if we're changing that now, I don't know. There's another alternative that's emerging. Apparently, there's a five-year plan is to emerge. Quite how industry and business and multimillionaires will see the alternative that's emerging. Yeah, we're talking reform. That's going to be very, very interesting. Reform is probably more business friendly than, I wouldn't say then individual friendly. I mean, this is always we're now getting back to the old thing. Is it individual friendly, or is it business friendly? How do you get in between? That's the ideology. Somebody that complains about their employer, but they're getting paid monthly by their employer for doing a job for them, that's not slavery. Okay, the ability to negotiate your salary is quite a big part of that. Okay, we've all been on the ground level where you went to work, you had a fixed salary, that was it. Take it or leave it. You've got the ability to move on and find something else, do some more study, and get a better job if you so desire. Which was always good in the UK. You could always do that if you so wanted. I don't know if that type of opportunity is still there or not. From what I can tell now, it's getting more and more difficult to get even a base job for a school leaver. And let's just be honest, going and working in a shop is a good start, gets you used to waking up every morning. Now they're making it easier for people to arrive and within days go and get a job, even if they're not nationalised, as it were. Yeah. So yeah, that's a knock-on effect of that. And that's, I feel sorry for school leavers. And again, that's starting somewhere. This is all connected. As you said, the ability to move upward and onwards. I'm very suspicious when I see this. I think this might be some millionaires making a statement. China is different as well. We all got the view of China. Now, I saw that in China, it's one of the biggest capitalist countries in the world, despite being a communist country. The Chinese are brilliant business people.
You shouldn't conflate the economic system, and the political system. The political system in China is communism, of course it is.
Yeah.
The economic system is very much a capitalist system, because that's how they make their money.
Yeah,
that's how they generate the money. And I think that the two are distinct.
Yeah, but one makes a policy and allows the other one to operate within it. I mean, you can be a multi-billionaire or billionaire in China, providing you don't rock the boat, much the same as in Russia. If you've ever listened to, is it Christian, the guy who does punditry, he left Russia when he was quite young and moved to the UK. I'm just trying to remember his name now, but he said about the oligarchical system in Russia. Nobody actually has any wealth. You're there at Putin's blessing, as it were. You upset Putin. Make sure your life insurance is up to date, and don't stand down by any high-rise windows. But yeah, anyway. But yeah, I mean, I'm always a bit suspicious. This is happening. That is happening. I think there's always going to be movement. We don't know. Look, we don't really know what's going to happen in the next election. Okay. I've seen about 3 different polls that have said 3 different things in the past 2 days. 1 minute Reform are going to win so many seats, the next they're not going to win any. Labour are going to have this landslide victory. That might not happen. You also got to go with the people who are being asked. Who are they asking? Who they're voting for? Are people saying yes to just something to get rid of it? Are people not admit? Yeah.
Between you and me, the economy in the UK is already shot.
Well, that's obvious. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if Conservatives get in again or Labour get. It's shot, and nobody is going to be able to do anything about it. And so these people are jumping ship because they know that it doesn't matter who gets in.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter that they're just keeping clear of it. You can, when you read an article, they can try and blame it on somebody. Of course they can. Yeah, depending on who's writing the article.
Well, of course, yeah. It's
right. If the writer of the article that I was reading was truthful, he would say that the British economy is shot, and that's why they're going. But he wasn't. He just tried to blame it on the fact that Starmer could get elected and tax everybody.
Well, I mean, the reality, unless something really radical does happen, nobody can. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean on the 5th of July a whole new economic policy comes in. Normally, what happens is Labour come in and just keep with the same one, the Conservative one, for the year, at least a year anyway, because you can't just wreck a system like that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the stock system, the share system, the stock markets are outside, as you say, are outside the politics of it all. They can be affected by lots of other things. It's important, but yeah, it doesn't mean that. I mean, what matters to us is how much we pay for our meat. And I know I'm going base level. I mean, I don't live in the highfalutin world above there, and I live in Brazil. I'm not a multi-millionaire in Brazil. I'm an English teacher. I work. I work. There's a demand for people to learn English. I'm your man. If there isn't, I've got to think of something else. It is a. Again, I don't want to think that the UK is finished. I've been hearing this for 40 years now. Whether it's along a death by 1,000 cuts, or it's a Europe-wide thing. It's like you say. I mean, if you've got money, life is good anywhere. I mean, we talk about France. France got economic downturn coming.
Yep.
Italy. I mean, Italy are not particularly stable overall, so I understand. It's like you say, come to Brazil because we can only go in one direction, up. You can buy your nice property here, have quite a nice life. I walked along the beach this morning, 8 o'clock. Went out for watch at 8 o'clock. Used the exercise racks that have been put there by the prefeitura, the local mayor and the council. Very nice. Nobody bothered me. Don't believe all you hear about Brazil. You can walk around quite safe. Well, mainly safely if you don't draw attention to yourself, and that's the big thing here. Don't draw attention to yourself. So if you're a multi-millionaire with a Rolex, I suggest leaving it at home if you're going for exercise on the beach in the morning. It's lovely here. I mean, going somewhere else. I mean, Britain has always had a high. Immigrate. People have always been leaving it. I have a book, from a children's book from about the 1980s, probably 1981. I've got it here with me in Brazil. That said about that the Britain has the highest immigration leaving rate in the world. We always have done. We've always gone somewhere else. That's a very British thing. Are the multi-millionaires leaving British, or do they come from another country in the first place? Are they Russian, for example? Are they Asian? Are they from Europe? That's the next question I ask. You know.
Well, I don't think that's important. I think because we're not talking about the person, we're talking about the money.
Are they taking their money with them?
No, of course, that's what I'm saying.
Mm.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think it's important if they brought their money here.
Mm.
Because if they're taking the money away, it's not because it's good, it's great here. It's because it's becoming a little bit ropey.
Well, yeah, but a lot of them are questioning.
It doesn't matter where the millionaires come from. It's the fact that they're going.
Well, yeah, leaving, but they're yeah.
It isn't that they are constantly on the move.
No,
and that they're only coming for a holiday.
No, I know what you're saying, but it's like I say, like I said, there's a lot of flats and apartments and things. Okay, so it's long-term investment.
Owned by foreigners. Yes, there are. Yes, there
are. Are there any businesses closing because of it? I haven't really seen it any different. There's businesses closing, but that's
we'll find out. We'll find out soon enough on Oxford Street when there's no rich folk going to buy their clothes from Harrods and all this. Let's
well, that's
see.
Knightsbridge. That's Knightsbridge, yeah. But Harrods has always been. Yeah, I mean, I've never been to Harrods. I've walked past it. It never really appealed to me.
They've never let me in.